The evening at the Lotus restaurant flows smoothly, like fine cognac in a crystal glass. Soft jazz music plays, and the air smells of truffles and grilled marbled meat. Ava glides between the tables in her white shirt and black apron. Her movements are precise, almost dance-like. She knows the dance by heart. Smile. Offer wine. Clear away an empty plate at the right time. Her gaze is constantly at work. She notices everything. Who's out of water? Who's looking for the waiter? Who's about to ask for the check? And then he snags a table by the large window, third from the left. 4 men are sitting there. They are dressed expensively, but somehow garishly. Their table is laden with the best dishes, but they hardly eat. They drink and talk a lot. Ava doesn't hear the words, but she sees their faces. They are tense. Their eyes don't look at each other, but dart around the room as if searching for something. One, with graying temples, constantly adjusts the cuff of his expensive watch. The other, younger, nervously taps his fingers on the table. They don't look like ordinary wealthy guests who come to relax. They look like people waiting for a signal. The restaurant door opens, and the air in the room changes. It doesn't get colder or warmer. It simply freezes. For a few seconds, even the jazz from the speakers fades, as if the sound engineer, too, has frozen. 3 people enter. 2 walk slightly behind. They are large men in dark suits, their faces expressionless. But all attention is focused on the one in front. This is Chon Jae-hyun. He's short, but he carries himself as if the space around him is his own. His dark suit fits perfectly. His hair is slicked back. There's neither a smile nor a frown on his face, only a calm, icy clarity. He stares ahead, seemingly oblivious to the gazes on him. The restaurant manager practically runs up to him, bows deeply, and leads him to the best table, which is always free, even at peak times. Ava knows this table. They call it Birch. Jae-hyun sits with his back to the wall, from where he can see the entire room and the exit. His assistants sit nearby, also choosing vantage points. The room gradually comes to life. The music starts up again, and the clink of cutlery can be heard. But now there's a new rhythm to the sound, a rhythm of alertness. Everyone knows who's here. Everyone senses his presence. Ava catches herself looking at him, too, and quickly looks away. She picks up a tray and goes to the kitchen to get their order. The cook hands her 2 dishes for the table by the window, for those suspicious men. Ava carries the plates carefully, balancing on her heels. Approaching their table, she puts on her professional smile. "Your steaks, gentlemen. Be careful. The plates are hot." The man with gray hair at his temples nods without looking at her. They all fell silent. Their gazes are now fixed on one spot, the birch table where Jae-hyun is sitting. And so, as Ava places plates in front of them, she hears fragments of phrases. The younger one is speaking, his fingers tapping. He speaks quickly, quietly, in Korean. Ava doesn't understand the language perfectly, but the key words catch her ear. "When he gets up, there will be chaos. Then we—" The gray-haired man interrupts him. His voice hisses like a snake. "Quiet. Just wait for the signal. We need to get the papers from his pocket, and his wallet. Quick and clean. Understood?" Ava pauses for a split second. "Geese, Isichen," adjusting her already perfectly positioned plate. Her heart suddenly starts pounding somewhere in her throat. She looks up and sees all 4 of them staring at Jae-hyun's back. There's no curiosity in their gaze. There's calculation and cold determination. The case is clear. These aren't just suspicious people. They're thieves. And their target is a man everyone in this room fears. Ava walks away from the table, maintaining a calm expression. But inside, she's shaking. She returns to her station, mechanically straightening her napkins. Her gaze darts from the group by the window to the lone figure at the birch bar. Jae-hyun calmly drinks water, checking something on his phone. He sees no danger behind him. She thinks about her father. He always said, "If you see injustice and can help, do it. Otherwise, you'll become part of the backdrop against which it happens." Ava grips the edge of the counter. She's just a waitress, a newcomer. She has no power here, no connections. One wrong move and she'll lose her job, her visa, everything. But she also sees these 4, their hard faces, and one man who doesn't suspect that they're picking on him like a pocket full of money. She exhales slowly. Her eyes search the counter for a piece of paper. Any piece. Her fingers find what she needs. A small notebook, the kind waitresses use to jot down urgent orders. She tears off a page. It's blank, rough at one edge, and tear off. It fits in the palm of her hand. Ava looks at this piece of paper as if someone's life depends on it. Perhaps it does. She feels a shiver of fear run down her spine. She knows who Jong is. Jae-hyun? Everyone in Seoul knows. If he finds out she's interfering in his affairs, the consequences could be anything. She could be kicked out. She could be made to never find work again. She thinks about her visa, her rented room, the paints and canvases she's saving up for. All of it could disappear in an instant. Her father's face appears before her eyes. Not a photograph, but a living memory. They are sitting on the veranda of their old house in Cape Town, and he, a diplomat, tired of the day's intrigues, tells her, looking at the sunset, "The world is full of people who see evil and pass by because they are afraid to dirty their hands. But the silence of good people is the music to which the bad dance. Sometimes one word, one gesture, is enough to disrupt their entire dance." She clutches the piece of paper in her fist. Father didn't say it wouldn't be scary. He said you have to do the right thing, even when it's scary. Ava looks up. Jae-hyun remains calm. The men by the window nervously light cigarettes, even though it's prohibited in the restaurant. The waiter is already rushing to admonish them. The commotion they were talking about could start at any moment. The decision has been made. Now she needs to act quickly and precisely. Ava opens her hand. The paper is crumpled. She quickly smooths it out on the counter. She always keeps a pen in her apron pocket. A simple blue ballpoint. She snatches it out, her mind racing to find the right words. Her Korean is good for orders and polite phrases, but not for complex warnings. English would be safer. He probably knows it. She writes quickly, in large block letters, so that it is clear at a glance. Ain't my. These men at window table. They want your things. Be careful. Those people are at the table by the window. They want your things. Be careful. She looks at what is written. The phrase, want your things, sounds stupid, childish, but she can't write want to rob or plan to steal. It's too complicated. Let's say your things. He'll understand. She turns the paper over, blank side. And that's enough. Now comes the hardest part. How do I deliver the note? Walk up to him and slip it into his hand? Impossible. His assistants won't allow it. Whisper it? They'll notice right away. Jae-hyun's jacket hangs neatly over the back of the chair. Dark gray, expensive, with a silk lining. Inside pocket. The perfect spot. We need a moment. We need a diversionary tactic. She sees one of Jae-hyun's assistants, the younger one with the sharp gaze, beckoning her over. Her heart skips a beat. Is that it? Are they suspicious? But no. He simply points to the empty teapot on the table. She needs to bring fresh tea. This is a chance. Ava goes into the kitchen. Her hands are icy. She pours hot tea into a clean porcelain teapot and places it on a tray. She places 2 folded linen napkins next to it. And most importantly, she carefully clutches the note in her left palm, under the napkin. She steps out into the hall. Every step echoes like a loud thump in her temples. She approaches the birch table. Jae-hyun looks out the window at the city at night. His senior assistant, Kang, watches the hall. The second one looks at her. Ava places the tray on the edge of the table. Her smile is a little frozen, but that could be attributed to the stress of serving such a guest. She picks up the teapot. In her left hand, covered with a napkin, is a note. "Your tea, sir," she says quietly in Korean, and then she makes her move. She shifts her weight from one foot to the other and places her outer heel on the uneven tiles, of which there are only 2 in the old restaurant. She deliberately chooses her trajectory. Her body lurches forward sharply. The teapot in her right hand jerks, and a few drops of hot tea splash onto the white tablecloth. "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry." Her voice sounds both frightened and natural. It all happens in seconds. She falls, her entire body against the back of the chair, her jacket on, as if trying to steady herself, her left hand holding the napkin and the note, instantly dives under the fold of her jacket. Her fingers find the slit in the inside pocket. With a push, the note disappears into the silk lining. She immediately pulls her hand back, grabbing the chair to straighten up. The assistant named Can jumps up. His hand is already in his shirt, his eyes burned by lightning. He looks at her, at the teapot, at the drops on the tablecloth. He saw the movement, but not the essence. Jaehyun slowly turns his head. His gaze glides over the stained tablecloth, her confused, flushed face, and Kang's figure. There's no anger or irritation on his face, just a faint, almost imperceptible hint of a question. "It's okay," he says quietly, but so quietly that his voice cuts through the jazz. "Calm down." Ava mumbles an apology, wiping away the puddle with a napkin. Her hands are shaking, truly. She feels Khan's gaze boring into her. But she did it. The note is now in his jacket. She quickly retreats, taking the tray. She doesn't even glance toward the window. She simply walks, feeling her heart pounding. The first part of the plan is complete. Now it all depends on him, on whether he notices the scrap of paper in his pocket. Khan doesn't sit up right away. He stands, his eyes cold and sharp as a scalpel, fixed on Ava. He saw her body sway. He saw the sharp movement of her left hand toward the boss's chair. He saw the flash of a white napkin. But the jacket was dark, and the movement was too fast. His brain, tuned to detect threats, registers an anomaly. The fall seemed a little too neat, too comfortable. He considers his options. A weapon? No. All he had was a napkin. A microphone? Pointless. Poison? Possibly. But she hadn't touched any food or drink. His gaze glides over her figure, searching for unnatural bulges in her clothing, the tension in her shoulders. All he sees is a frightened girl with shaking hands who spilled her tea. Her fear seems genuine, but his instincts tell him something is wrong. He slowly lowers himself into a chair, never taking his eyes off her. He doesn't say anything to Jaehyun. The boss hates empty suspicions. He needs facts. For now, the facts are, the waitress is awkward. But Kang adds this girl to his mental list of things to investigate. He'll check her out later, find out who she is, where she's from, who she pays rent to. Right now, his main concern is the boss's desk. He glances at the 4 people by the window, their tense backs. They're up to something too. Perhaps these 2 events are connected? For now, it's just an itch in his professional mind. Jaehyun watches the whole scene as if from the sidelines. Drops of tea on the snow-white tablecloth form an ugly brown stain. The girl fidgets, muttering apologies. Kang jumps up like a spring. All this is a subtle background noise. Irritating, but insignificant. His thoughts are elsewhere. They're on the upcoming meeting tomorrow morning, where one old ally might demand too much. He considers every word, every possible response. The tea incident is just an interruption. He notices Khan's atypical reaction, but trusts him. If there was a real threat, Khan would have acted already. He makes a barely perceptible gesture with his hand, reassuring, commanding, "It's okay, calm down." These words apply to both his assistant and the waitress. The situation is resolved. He returns to contemplating the night city outside the window. The lights of Seoul flicker like cold stars. His own reflection in the glass looks calm and impenetrable. The bustle behind him subsides. He adjusts the cuff of his shirt. His world once again consists only of silence, calculation, and the crushing responsibility he bears on his shoulders. This small incident has already been erased from his working memory. Ava, moving to the service counter, tries to breathe evenly. She feels the assistant, Kan's heavy gaze on her. She doesn't look in that direction, pretending to check the orders on her tablet. Her palms are clammy. To avoid further suspicion, she takes a pitcher of water and makes a lap around the room, refilling empty glasses. This gives her time to move, calm down, and, most importantly, observe. She approaches the center of the room. Out of the corner of her eye, she sees a table by the window. The men are no longer sitting so relaxed. They are ready. The gray-haired man is quietly saying something, his lips barely moving. And then she sees it. A young man with nervous fingers picks up a nearly full bottle of dark soy sauce from the table. It's a heavy glass bottle. He places it not next to his plate, but right in front of him. But he doesn't just place it. He places it right next to a tall crystal vase holding an orchid. The bottle touches the glass of the vase with a quiet cling. Then he slowly, too slowly for a normal gesture, turns the bottle so that the label is facing outward, not inward, toward Jae-hyun's table. He removes his hand. Signal. It's as clear as day. This isn't an accident. This is a planned action. All four are now looking not at the bottle, but at the space in front of them. Their postures have changed. They are ready to stand. The gray-haired man discreetly slides his hand under the table, as if adjusting something near the toe of his shoe. Getting ready to move. An icy wave rolls down Ava's spine. They're starting, now. Her note is her last chance. She looks at Jae-hyun. He's still looking out the window. His jacket is still hanging over the back of his chair. The warning note still lies in the darkness of his pocket. Invisible. A silent scream in the silken silence. It all depends on seconds. The gray-haired man is the first to rise from the table. He straightens his jacket and pretends to head for the restroom. His path takes him past the birch table. The other two follow him, engaging in light, loud conversation about exchange rates. The young man, his fingers nervous, remains where he is, but his hand rests on the table, ready for something. Ava freezes, holding the jug. She can't look away. Her entire plan, her entire hope, now hinges on whether he'll notice the note. The first man passes by without even glancing at Jae-hyun. The second, the younger and louder one, lingers slightly. And then the third, a stocky man with a boxer's face, fails to notice the leg of Kang's chair. He makes an awkward, exaggerated movement, his body turning. A glass of red wine appears in his hand, which he had been holding to his chest. A full glass. It flies in an arc straight at Jae-hyun. Time slows. Ava watches as the dark ruby liquid splashes out of the glass, creating an arc in the air. Its target is Jae-hyun's shoulder and chest. Jae-hyun doesn't see the flying glass. He's looking out the window, but he hears a sudden movement, the shuffling of feet, a muffled curse. Years of instinct force his body to react before his brain. He doesn't jump. He abruptly pushes away from the table, swinging his chair to the side. His jacket twitches on the back, and at that moment, as he pulls away, his elbow, bent at a sharp angle, presses into the side of his jacket. And he feels it. Something foreign, not the silk of the lining, not the smoothness of the inside pocket. A small, hard, rough lump. Paper. His eyes, which a second ago reflected the city lights, change. There's no surprise in them, no panic. The slight distraction vanishes, replaced by instant, absolute clarity and coldness. The same cold that comes from steel before it's tempered. For him, the entire world narrows in that second to two facts. He's been attacked, albeit a theatrical one, and there's a foreign object in his pocket, planted by someone. These two facts connect in his head in a lightning-fast chain of logic. The glass falls to the floor at his feet with a loud crystal clink. Wine splashes across the parquet floor and his trousers. The man who spilled it showers him with apologies, holding out his hands with a napkin, trying to get closer, to touch him, to help him dry off. His companions also surround the table, creating a tight circle of bodies, blocking his view. The commotion they had agreed upon has begun. But Jae-hyun is no longer here. His mind is racing. He sees their faces, false regret, poorly concealed nervousness. He sees their eyes dart not over his face, but over his jacket, over his pockets. He remembers the waitress, her fall, the movement of her hand toward that very jacket. Awkward or precise? Jae-hyun rises slowly. His entire appearance freezes the bustle around him, like ice freezing water. He doesn't look at the wine on his pants. He doesn't look at the crystal shards. He looks at the gray-haired man, now standing closest, feigning disappointment. Jae-hyun says, his voice quiet, but cutting through the room better than any shout. It was an accident. It happens. He gives Khan the barest hint of a nod. Not a glance, not a hand gesture, just a tiny movement of his head. But Khan, who's been watching like a hawk the whole time, reads it perfectly. Jae-hyun turns and calmly lifts his jacket from the back of the chair. He does it casually with one hand, but his fingers slide right to where the rough lump had been. He feels its shape. Without unfolding the jacket, He reaches into the pocket and pulls out the note. All this is done under the cover of movement, as if he were simply adjusting his clothes. He glances at the scrap of paper, printed English letters, simple, childish language. These men want your things. His face doesn't change. But inside, everything falls into place. The girl warned him. These people want to rob him while he's still in the dark. Now. He looks straight at the gray-haired man. His gaze is no longer cold steel, but the emptiness of space. No emotion, no threat, simply a statement of fact. Looks like your evening is ruined, Jae-hyun says in the same even tone. And mine, too. There's no point in continuing it. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't threaten. But his words carry such an absolute, unconditional command that the gray-haired man catches his breath. He freezes, and his fake smile slips, revealing panic. Khan and the second mate stand up. They don't make any sudden movements. They simply stand. And that's enough. Their silent, focused mass becomes an impenetrable wall. The four men turn pale. They realize the plan is out. The show is over. The young man by the window suddenly stands up. No one says a word. They simply retreat. Quickly, almost silently, backing toward the exit, their frightened eyes never leaving Jae-hyun. A moment later, the restaurant door closes behind them. The silence in the room is echoing. Everyone is watching. Jae-hyun slowly folds the note and puts it in his pants pocket. He looks at the stain on the tablecloth, at the shards. And then his gaze, calm and relentless, slowly turns across the room. He searches and finds. His eyes land on Ava. She's still standing there with the pitcher of water, white as a wall. Their gazes meet for just a second. There's no gratitude in his gaze, no anger, only heavy, bottomless attention, the gaze of a man who's just received an answer to a question he didn't ask, and now has a new one, and that question is her. Then he looks away, nodding to the manager, who's already rushing toward him with an apology. "Bring the bill, please," Jae-hyun says, his voice returning to its normal, businesslike tone, dismissing the incident. But the crumpled note in his pocket burns like a seal. The next day at the Lotus, everything is as usual. Sunbeams fall on the tables set for lunch. Ava is back in her white shirt and black apron, but inside, she's clenched in a tight knot. She woke up 10 times that night, listening to every rustle on the stairs. She's washing glasses behind the counter when she feels the air in the restaurant change again. It's quiet, not like last night, but there is a difference. She looks up. Kan stands in the doorway. He's alone. He's wearing the same dark suit. His face is expressionless. He doesn't look around, doesn't search for the manager. His gaze finds her immediately. He crosses the room straight toward her. His steps are firm, silent on the soft carpet. Ava freezes. She holds a glittering crystal glass in her hands, and she's afraid she'll drop it. Khan stops in front of the bar. He doesn't smile. He doesn't nod. "Ava Kane," he says. His voice is even, without intonation. He's not asking. It's a statement. He knows her name. She can't utter a word, only nods slightly. "You need to come with me," he continues. It's not a request. There's no threat in his tone, but there's no possibility of refusal either. It's a statement of the next step in her life. I have a shift," she says weakly, her voice sounding alien. "It's settled," Kan replies. He gestures slightly toward the manager. He stands at the entrance to the kitchen and gives her a quick, nervous nod, signaling, "Go ahead, go ahead." Everything has already been decided without her. Ava slowly sets down her glass. Her hands tremble slightly. She takes off her apron and leaves it on the counter. She walks away from the counter, aware of the other waitress's eyes on her. She doesn't take her purse. She simply follows Khan out. A car is waiting outside. Dark, large, with tinted windows. Kang opens the door for her. She climbs into the back seat. The interior smells of clean leather. Kang sits next to the driver. The car starts moving, and Seoul begins to float past the window. They drive to the business district. The car stops at the entrance to a tall, mirrored skyscraper. Kan leads her inside, past security guards, who merely nod to him, past the reception desk. They enter the elevator. Khan presses the button for the top floor. The elevator rises quickly and silently. Ava watches the changing numbers and feels the ground slip away from under her feet. The elevator opens directly into the reception area. It's empty and quiet. No one is there. Just a large sofa, a painting on the wall, and a single dark wood door. Khan approaches the door, knocks twice, briefly and firmly, opens it, and lets her in first. The office is enormous. Entire walls are floor-to-ceiling windows. All of Seoul lies below like a toy. The room is almost devoid of furniture. A large, empty, light wood desk, a couple of chairs. No books, no papers, no computer. Just a man by the window. Jaehyun stands with his back to her, looking out over the city. He's wearing simple black pants and a gray shirt with the collar open. He doesn't turn when she enters. Khan quietly closes the door from the outside. They are left alone. The silence here is echoing, oppressive. Ava stands by the door, unsure what to do. She clasps her hands in front of her to keep them from shaking. A few seconds pass. It feels like half an hour. Jaehyun turns around slowly. He's holding the same piece of paper. It looks even more wrinkled, as if it's been unfolded and folded many times. He looks at her. His face is calm, tired. None of yesterday's ice. Just an attentive, appraising gaze. "Why?" he asks. One word. His voice rings loudly in the quiet office. Ava blinks. She'd prepared herself for anything, shouting, accusations, threats, but not for this simple, direct question. She looks at him, then at the note in his hand, then back at him. Her mind frantically searches for a clever answer, an explanation, but all she finds is the truth. The very truth that started it all. She shrugs slightly, the gesture hesitant, almost adolescent. It was right, she says quietly. Her voice is hoarse. She forces herself to look him in the eye. They were doing bad things. I could help, that's all. She adds nothing more. She doesn't apologize for interrupting. She doesn't make excuses. She simply states the situation. Jaehyun looks at her. He studies her face, searching for a lie, a game, an ulterior motive. He sees only an open, frightened, yet firm expression. He sees simplicity, not stupidity, but straightforwardness. A stone thrown into the smooth surface of his complex world. He slowly looks down at the note in his hands. Children's letters. Be careful. A simple warning that changed the course of the evening. His lips twitch slightly, almost imperceptibly. Not a smile, more like the shadow of something surprising. He hadn't expected such an answer. In his world, people didn't do anything simply because it's the right thing. Everyone had a price, a reason, a calculation. But this girl from the restaurant, it seems, doesn't have it. Just this. A simple, unwavering right. He looks back out the window toward his city, but now he sees more than just the city. He sees the reflection of this tall, slender girl in a black skirt and white shirt, standing in the middle of his empty office, wanting nothing from him. And that's what surprises him most of all. The silence in the office stretches on for a long time. Jaehyun continues to stare out the window, fiddling with that same scrap of paper. You're observant, he says finally, without turning around. It's not a compliment. It's a statement of fact, like a diagnosis. You saw what my people didn't. You understood the intent, and you found a way to convey the information. He turns to face her, his gaze now businesslike, lacking that initial heavy insight. I have people who follow a lot, but they see the world through a certain prism. They look for specific threats. Sometimes simple things slip through the cracks. He pauses, choosing his words. You see things differently. You're not from our world. Your perspective is fresh. Ava remains silent, not understanding where he is leading. I'm offering you a temporary job, Jaehyun says bluntly. Nothing complicated. You continue working at the restaurant, living your life. You just observe. At the people in the Lotus, on the street, in your neighborhood. If anything seems strange or unusual, you tell me. Just the facts. What you saw, what you heard. Not your own guesses. Just what happened. He places the crumpled note on the empty table. Like this note. Just a fact. Do you understand? Ava looks at him, her eyes wide. This isn't what she was afraid of. This is something else entirely. Spying? No, he says, just observing. And reporting. Why do you need this? She blurts out. To see the whole picture, he answers simply. Sometimes you need an outside perspective. Ava agrees, partly because she's afraid to refuse, partly because his offer has a strange logic, and also because the amount he's asking for information is 5 times her monthly waitress salary. That money could pay for an entire semester of art classes. This is how her double life begins. By day, she's still the same Ava. She serves steaks and smiles at guests, washes glasses, and argues with the cooks over orders. She attends evening drawing classes, smells of paint and turpentine, and her fingers are perpetually stained with color. She dreams of her own exhibition. But once every 2 or 3 days, late at night, a short, unsigned message arrives on her phone. An address and time. Usually, it's a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop in a business district, a park at a quiet hour, sometimes even an empty observation deck. Kang, or, less often, Jae-hyun himself, is waiting for her there. The meetings last no more than 10 minutes. She speaks briefly and to the point. On Thursday, a man sat at a table by the fountain. He drank only water for 3 hours, staring the entire time at the entrance to the Grand Hotel. Yesterday, on the subway, 2 men in identical tracksuits were having a pointless conversation, too loudly, as if to cover their own, their eyes constantly darting over people's bags. She doesn't theorize. She simply relays what caught her attention. They listen, nod, and sometimes ask clarifying questions. What color was the bag? Did you remember the time? Then they hand her an envelope, and she leaves. No unnecessary words. Sometimes, when Jae-hyun leads the meeting, the conversation goes beyond the reports. These moments are strange and quiet. One day, after she told him about a suspicious merchant in her neighborhood, he suddenly asked, "Why did he seem suspicious to you?" He was calling out loudly, but he wasn't looking at them, but at the windows of the houses across the street, Ava replied. That's right, Jae-hyun nodded. He was making noise as a cover. His eyes weren't looking for customers, but for something else. Lies often hide an inconsistency. Between words and looks, between actions and goals. He spoke to her not as a subordinate, but as a student. He taught her to see the gaps in her worldview. In response, without knowing why, she once showed him her sketchbook. Not a report, just sketches of people in the subway, street scenes. She expected ridicule or indifference. Jae-hyun slowly flipped through the pages. He stared at one drawing for a long time, an old man feeding pigeons, his hands depicted with exquisite, almost painful detail. You see more than just a man, he finally said. You see history in his hands. That's valuable. Since then, she sometimes leaves small, quick sketches among the dry reports, on a napkin, on the back of a receipt. Not of people, but of details. A broken sign, a tramp's mismatched boot, the sky's reflection in a puddle. She doesn't sign them. And the next time she came to meet him, Jae-hyun, as he handed her the envelope, handed her back one of those napkins. It had no design. It had a neatly folded paper crane on it. A precise, almost architectural figure made of thin paper. No words, no explanations, just a crane in the palm of your hand. She took it. And that evening, in her small room, she placed it on the shelf next to the paint cans. A quiet, strange understanding arose between them. He was teaching her to see the lies in the world of shadows. She, without realizing it, was showing him that there were still things in this world worth simply seeing. From now on, their envelopes become a little thicker. Besides money, Ava now sometimes includes small drawings of herself. These aren't reports. They're something else. She draws on scraps of paper things that don't fit into the dry facts. A motionless cat on the roof of the building next to the restaurant, watching the windows for hours. A pattern of cracks in the asphalt near her house, like a strange map. The reflection of a lantern in a puddle in the alley, where she once spotted a suspicious encounter. She doesn't sign them, she doesn't explain them, she simply places them in an envelope along with her usual words. She doesn't know why she does this. Perhaps it's her way of showing him the world as she sees it, full not only of threats, but also of the strange, silent beauty of its details. At their next meeting, when Khan hands her a new envelope, she notices that the one she gave her last time is already empty. There's no drawing in it. She doesn't ask. A few days later, she has a meeting with Jae-hyun. He's sitting on a bench in a deserted park. After reporting, she hands him an envelope. He takes it, opens it, and without looking, takes out money and a folded piece of paper with text. Then he takes out a small drawing. Today, it was a cherry blossom branch, stubbornly blooming near a construction site. He stares at the drawing for a few seconds, without saying a word. Then, carefully, in his own special way, he folds it into a small square and puts it in the inside pocket of his jacket, next to where she once placed the first note. He does this every time. He never comments. He just accepts it and carefully puts it away. It becomes their silent ritual. One day, she tells a story about something that seems insignificant to her. She saw a man who, for several days in a row, would come into a small diner next to the art studio. He always sat by the window and looked out at the old, long-closed building across the street. He had a strange tattoo on his arm, 3 intertwined fish. He just sat and watched. He didn't do anything. He just watched, Ava says with a shrug. She barely mentioned the incident. Jae-hyun, who had been listening to her while looking away, suddenly froze. He slowly turned his head toward her. His entire body became still, like a predator that had caught a scent. 3 fish? His voice is quieter than usual, almost soundless. Intertwined? Are you sure? Ava nods, surprised by his reaction. Yes. Blue, they looked old. He looks away, but she sees how his face has changed. The usual detachment is gone. Something heavy and sharp appears in his eyes, like a long-forgotten, but never fully healed wound. He remains silent for so long that Ava feels uneasy. That building across the street, he says finally, was a club many years ago. It belonged to my family. He doesn't continue. But Ava understands. This man with the tattoo wasn't just looking at the abandoned building. And his mark means something. For Jae-hyun, it's more than just information. It's a ghost from the past. She'd accidentally touched something important. A week passes. Ava emerges from the metro after her course. It's already dark outside. She turns into her alley, taking out her keys to the entrance. And then she feels a gaze on her. Heavy, intent. She turns around. Across the street, in the shadow of a building entrance, stands a man. He's motionless, just smoking and looking straight at her. He doesn't look like her neighbors. He's wearing a leather jacket, and his posture is too relaxed, observant. Their gazes meet. The man doesn't look away. He takes a slow drag, and in the glow of the coal, she sees the dark lines of a tattoo on his arm, resting on the railing. She can't make out the design, but her heart tightens with a chilling premonition. She turns sharply and almost runs into the entryway, locking the door. She climbs the stairs, listening. There are no footsteps outside, but the feeling of being watched doesn't go away. The next day, as she leaves her house, she sees the same pack of cigarettes abandoned at her doorstep. It's not the brand her neighbors smoke. That evening at the restaurant, she finds herself constantly glancing around. Every new guest seems suspicious to her. She drops a plate, something that never happens to her before. The manager frowns. During her break, she stands at the service entrance, trying to calm the trembling in her hands. She understands. Her small double life has cracked. Someone has found out. Someone has connected the dots between the simple waitress and the boss of the Hwanghae clan. Jae-hyun's past is now watching her. She's no longer an invisible observer. She's become a target, and she doesn't know what to do. Tell him? But that would mean admitting she's been found, and possibly bringing the danger even closer. Silence? But then she'll be left alone with that gaze from the darkness and the cold fear that now lurks beneath her heart. Fear makes a person stupid. Ava knows this, but she can't stop herself. The thought of becoming a problem for Jae-hyun burns her inside. She decides not to run to him for help. Instead, she comes up with a poor plan. Find out who's spying on her and give Jae-hyun the facts, not just her fears. She spots the same man in a leather jacket 2 days later. He's standing at a roasted nut stand 2 blocks from her house. He's not looking at her, but somewhere off to the side. Ava, her heart pounding, decides to follow him. She thinks, I'll just find out where he's going. The man walks slowly. He turns into an old industrial district, filled with abandoned warehouses and narrow alleys. Ava keeps a respectful distance, hiding behind corners and cars. She feels like the heroine of a spy film until she realizes there are no people left around. Only the hollow echo of her footsteps and his. He abruptly turns the corner of a long brick building. Ava, taking a deep breath, creeps after him. She peers around the corner. The alley is empty, only broken crates and graffiti on the walls. She realizes her mistake too late. The sound of a boot on gravel sounds behind her. She turns around. There are now 2 men standing in front of her. The same man in the jacket and another, younger, with cold eyes. They stand between her and the exit from the alley. "The walk is over, girl," says the man in the jacket. His voice is raspy. He takes a step toward her. Ava steps back, her back hitting the cold brick. She looks around in panic. Not a soul. Her phone is in her pocket, but she won't have time to get it out. Jaehyun waits for her report at the appointed place, the hotel rooftop conservatory. He glances at his watch. She's already 20 minutes late. Ava is never late. At first, he thinks of traffic, of unexpected work, but something inside him tightens into a cold, hard lump. He remembers her last report. About the man with the tattoo. About his gaze. He knows the people from that old case too well. They don't just observe. They act. He dials Khan's number. "Check her now. Start with the restaurant, then her house." 15 minutes later, Khan calls back. His voice is tense. "She's not at the restaurant. Her shift is over. She's not home. The neighbors saw her leave, but they didn't see her return. They found this at her entrance." In the photo that comes next, Jaehyun sees a crumpled white napkin. On it, in blue pen, her pen, is a frightened smiley face. It was an old joke. She'd draw them on the order napkins when she wanted to convey that a guest was difficult. She'd thrown it out as a signal. A cry for help. At that moment, something breaks inside Jaehyun. That icy, eternal control he's been building for years begins to crack. His face hardens, but a fire flares in his eyes that even Kang hadn't seen. "Mobilize everyone you can. Search. Check the cameras in the area around her house. Look for any connection to those people from the past. I'm leaving myself." "Boss, it's not safe," Kang begins. "Now!" Jaehyun's voice leaves no room for argument. He's already on the move, grabbing his jacket. His world, always a chessboard, has suddenly narrowed to a single goal. Find her. They find her 3 hours later. The signal from her phone, which she'd managed to turn on in her pocket, led them to that same industrial district. Jaehyun is riding in the first car, his fingers clenching and unclenching convulsively. The cars pull into an alley. In the headlights, they see a scene. Ava pressed against the wall. 2 people stand in front of her. One is holding her hand. They are saying something to her, their faces angry. The cars stop abruptly. The doors open. The first one to step out is not Kang, but Jaehyun. He walks toward them, with quick, firm steps. In the headlights, his face seems carved from marble. Seeing him, both men freeze. A primal fear instantly appears in their eyes. They release Ava. She, seeing Jaehyun, slides down the wall to the ground, hugging herself. Jaehyun doesn't look at them. He approaches Ava and kneels before her. He takes her chin, gently but firmly, and forces her head up. He looks into her eyes, checking her. He sees fear, panic, but no serious injuries. "Are you okay?" His voice is quiet and hoarse. She can't speak. She just nods, and tears roll down her face. Then he rises. He turns to the 2 of them. His calm is now more terrifying than any rage. "Tell your boss," he says quietly, but in a way that makes every word drop like a stone. "He touched my... This is personal now." That's enough. The men quickly leave, almost running, disappearing into the darkness. Jaehyun returns to Ava and helps her up. Kang is already opening the car door. His men see it all. They see their boss, who never touches anyone unnecessarily, leading the trembling waitress to the car. They see him put her in the back seat and sit down next to her, giving the order to drive. The silence in the car is deafening. Jae-hyun looks out the window, but he doesn't see the city. He sees a gap in his defenses. He stepped out of the shadows for her. He showed the world his weakness, and that weakness sits next to him now, quietly sobbing in the darkness. Now they will hunt it down to get to him. He saved her today, but whether he made her situation better or 1,000 times worse, he doesn't yet know. Jae-hyun keeps for important meetings. It's quiet, clean, and deserted. He leads her inside. She's still shaking. He places a cup of hot tea in front of her. He doesn't sit down himself. He stands by the window, his silhouette dark against the backdrop of the night city. "You can't work for me anymore," he says without turning around. His voice is even, but there's no longer the same detachment. There's weariness. "You can't come to meetings anymore. You shouldn't try to contact me." Ava looks at him, confused. After what happened, she expected anything but this. "Why?" Her voice is quiet and broken. "Because today is just the beginning." He turns, his face stern. "They've seen. They know now, and they'll use you to get to me. The only way to protect you is to remove you from my world." He says this as if reading a report, but his eyes tell a different story. There's heaviness in them. "Tomorrow, Khan will bring you new documents, money, a ticket to another city if you want. Take everything and leave. Forget Lotus, forget this neighborhood, and forget me." The phrase "forget me" sounds less like a request and more like an order, harsh and unconditional. He doesn't give her room to argue, leaves no room for gratitude or farewell. He builds a wall, and then he stands on the other side of that wall. Ava returns to her small room the next day. Khan did indeed bring an envelope, a thick one, and new papers under a different name. He didn't say a word, just nodded and left. She's trying to return to her old life. She's starting a shift at Lotus. But now, every creak of a door makes her flinch. Every unfamiliar man at a table seems a threat. She no longer watches people with curiosity. She scans them with fear. Her paints and canvases stand untouched in the corner. She tries to paint, but only vague shadows and restless lines emerge on the paper. All color seems to have drained from her world. She works mechanically. The smile on her face has become a heavy mask. Jae-hyun, in his office at the top of a skyscraper, also lives in silence. But his silence is different. It's loud. He looks at the reports, but the numbers and words swim before his eyes. Instead, he sees her face in the headlights, frightened, tearful. He hears the ticking of the clock, and each tick reminds him that somewhere out there, she's alone. And the danger he created around himself could now reach her. He finds himself waiting for her short messages. He checks his phone, but the screen is blank. The silence becomes a punishment. His world, once a clear battlefield, is now filled with this oppressive, uneven silence. Khan brings coffee and notices that last week's reports are untouched. That's not like the boss. "The elders are asking about that incident in the alley," Kang says carefully, arranging the documents on the table. He's referring to the attack on Ava and Jaehyun's personal presence. Jaehyun doesn't look up from the window. "What exactly are they interested in?" "They express concern." Khan chooses his words. "Some believe such personal reactions could be used against us, that it shows weakness." "Weakness," Jae-hyun repeats without intonation. The word hangs in the air. "They say the girl has become a point of pressure, and that as long as she's in the city, even if you don't communicate, she remains vulnerable," Khan says quickly, like extracting a tooth. He disagrees with the elders, but his duty is to pass on information. Jae-hyun finally turns around. His face is inscrutable, but Kang, who knows his age, sees a slight tension at the corners of his mouth. "My decisions are not subject to discussion by the elders, as long as I lead Hwanghae," Jae-hyun says quietly, but his words lack the previous absolute confidence. There is a challenge. He knows Kang is right. His people, his comrades, now see Awa not as a casual assistant, but as a problem, a weak link in his chain of power. The elders' concern isn't just words, it's a wake-up call. Discontent within the clan is more dangerous than any external enemy, and he himself, by his actions, has given them cause for this discontent. The wall he tried to build between himself and Ewa may not protect either of them. It has only sharpened the attention of those always looking for a chink in his armor. Ava sits on the floor of her room, surrounded by cardboard boxes. She's finally decided to sort through her father's things, which she's kept for years but never opened. There was nothing valuable in them, only old documents, newspaper clippings, photographs. She thought it would help her distract herself. Keep her hands busy, stop thinking about the alley, about his face in the headlights, about the harsh words that sounded like a death sentence. She mechanically shuffles through folders of papers in English and Korean, reports, diplomatic correspondence, invitations. Her father liked order. Everything is neatly labeled. She looks at his familiar handwriting, and a lump forms in her throat. In one of the folders, labeled Business Contacts, Seoul, 2006-2008. A familiar name catches her eye among the dull minutes. Kim Seon-ho. She reads the name, and a fragment of a conversation she overheard in a restaurant a week ago flashes into her mind. Two men at the table were discussing elder Kim Seon-ho, calling him an old fox, and saying he still keeps a strong presence at that old club by the river. She takes out a document. It's an unofficial memo, apparently prepared for her father. It lists key figures in Seoul business at the time. The name Kim Seon-ho is next to the note. Owner of the River Breeze entertainment chain, partner in several projects with the Hwanghae clan. To the Hwanghae clan, next to it is an old black and white photograph. In it, her father, young and smiling, stands with a group of men at the opening of some club. In the background, slightly to the side, stands the same man with the 3 fish tattoo. And next to him, with his hand on his shoulder, stands a smiling man in an expensive suit. The caption on the back of the photograph, Opening of the Blue Lagoon, from left to right, Ambassador Kane, Mr. Lee, Mr. Kim Seon-ho, Mr. Park, manager. A chill runs down her spine. Kim Seon-ho, the elder of the Hwanghae clan. He stands in a photograph with the man who, many years later, would attack her in an alley. It's no coincidence. Her father, without knowing it, made the connection. She frantically flips through other papers. She finds several more references. Kim Seon-ho was actively investing in real estate at the time, along with Jae-hyun's father. But their paths later diverged. In one of her father's analytical memos, apparently addressed to the embassy, there's a line. Kim S. retains influence in Hwanghae, but his loyalty to the current leadership, the deceased son, is questionable. He has his own interests in the old riverside districts. Jae-hyun was talking about the tattoo of 3 fish. Maybe it's the symbol of that same old gang connected to Kim? An elder who's upset with Jae-hyun, who, through his old men, was tracking her to get to the boss. Ava sits on the floor, holding the photograph and papers in her trembling hands. Fear gives way to something else, a hot, clear determination. This isn't just her problem, it's a threat to him, and she has the key. She's found the weakness not in him, but in his enemy. She knows she can't go to him. He told her not to get involved, but she can't just hide these papers. If she disappears or something happens to her, the truth will disappear with her. She has to give them to him. In person. To be sure. She remembers the schedule. Every Wednesday, late afternoon. Ayun. He comes for an hour to his old tea house in the historic quarter. It's a place known only to its own people. Khan checks it out personally before his visit. It's the only loophole. On Wednesday, she dresses plainly. Dark jeans, a simple sweater, and a cap she tucks her hair under. She arrives at the block 2 hours early. She finds a small cafe overlooking the alley leading to the tea shop. She sits by the window with a book and waits. She sees 2 cars pull up. Kang and 2 others emerge from the first. They quickly scan the alley and enter the tea house. 10 minutes later, a dark sedan pulls up. Jae-hyun gets out. He's alone. He quickly steps inside without looking back. Kang and his men remain outside, taking up positions. Ava's heart is pounding. It's now or never. She leaves the cafe and goes not to the tea shop, but to the nearby souvenir shop. She buys the first postcard she sees with a view of Seoul. On the back, right next to the counter, she writes briefly, I need to see you. Now. This is about Kim Seonho and the man with the tattoo. I'm waiting at the store across the street. E. She steps out, waits for Can to turn away, scanning the other side of the street, and quickly, without running, crosses the road. She approaches one of the young men at the entrance to the tea house. He becomes wary, his hand slipping discreetly behind his back. Give this to him. Only to him, Ava says quietly, holding out the folded card. Her voice doesn't waver. The young man looks at her with distrust, but perhaps he recognizes her. He nods briefly and disappears inside. A minute, 2, 5. Ava stands, hands buried in her pockets, feeling everyone staring at her. Then the door to the tea house opens. Can appears in the doorway. His face is unreadable. He looks at her, then looks away, giving a barely perceptible nod toward the narrow passage between the buildings. She goes there. It's a blind alley, littered with boxes. There, in the depths, in the shadows, stands Jae-hyun. He's wearing a dark coat. His face, in the semi-darkness, seems carved from stone. In his eyes, there's not anger, but anticipation. And fatigue. You shouldn't have come, he says first. His voice is low, emotionless. Ava doesn't make excuses. She takes a folded folder containing documents and a photograph from her inside jacket pocket and hands it to him. I was going through my father's things. I found this. Kim Seonho. The man with the tattoo was in a photo with him many years ago. My father wrote that Kim was disloyal, that he had his own interests. Jae-hyun takes the folder. He doesn't open it right away. He looks at it. Why did you do that? I told you to leave. Ava lifts her chin. She looks him straight in the eyes, for the first time without fear, only with firm determination. Because they attacked me to get you. Because you came out into that alley because of me. And because I don't want to be your debtor. Now we're even. The phrase hangs in the air. Settlement. She gives him the evidence to clear her debt, so that nothing else binds them, so that he won't feel obligated to protect her, and she won't feel obligated to owe him her life. Jae-hyun nods slowly. He understands. He tucks the folder under his arm. Go now. And don't come back. Ever, he says. But there's no longer the harshness in his voice. There's something like respect or regret. She nods, turns and leaves without looking back. She has done what she must. Now her path lies in a different direction. Forever. Jae-hyun stands in the blind alley for another minute after she leaves. Then he turns and goes inside. He doesn't return to his tea. He gives Kang a quiet order. That's it. Now. An hour later, he's sitting not in his glass-walled office, but in a traditional meeting hall in the old Hwanghae clan house. The room is dark, smelling of wood and incense. 5 elders sit at a long table. Among them is Kim Seonho. He's old, with a reptilian face and calm eyes. He adjusts his teacup. Jae-hyun doesn't sit at the head of the table. He stands against the wall, silently. He doesn't initiate conversation. He simply places a folder on the table, and next to it are printed, enlarged copies of a photograph. A photograph of a young Kim Seonho standing, his hand on the shoulder of a man with a tattoo of 3 fish. The silence in the room grows thick. Everyone looks at the photograph, then at Kim. Kim Seonho shows no emotion at first. He drinks his tea, then slowly sets the cup down. An old photograph, Jae-hyun see. Much time has passed. I can't even remember who those people were. This man, Jae-hyun points to the tattoo, attacked someone who works for me 3 days ago. He and his partner threatened him. They knew where to look. They were watching. Your old friends from the River Brotherhood, Uncle Kim? The same ones who controlled the River District until my father cleared it out? An attack? What attack? I don't know anything. Kim shrugs. Then Jae-hyun places a second piece of paper on the table, a bank transfer printout, very old, but with clear details. From one of the Kim-controlled funds to an offshore company Jae-hyun knows belonged to the River Brotherhood. The transfer is dated to the period of the Quiet War over the river region, when Jae-hyun's sister died, caught in a shootout in territory supposedly controlled by the Hwanghae clan, but where, as it turns out, Kim's men were in charge. You financed them. Back then. And it seems you still keep in touch. They work for you. You use them to probe my weakness. To strike me through a stranger, Jae-hyun says. His voice is quiet, but every word hits like a hammer. Kim Seon-ho turns pale. He hadn't expected such evidence. He thought he'd covered all the old tracks. This is a provocation. Who gave you these papers? This girl? You trust a visiting waitress more than your clan elder? His voice loses its composure, a shrill note creeping into it. I trust the facts, Jae-hyun snaps. He looks at the other elders. Their faces are stern. They understand this isn't just a power dispute. This is betrayal. Affiliation with an external rival faction. Undermining the clan's authority from within. And the death of a family member. The Hwanghae clan stands on loyalty, on family. You've violated both. There's no further argument. It's unnecessary. The elders' glances are enough. They avert their gaze from Kim. It's the death sentence. Jae-hyun gives a slight nod to Kang, who is standing by the door. Kang approaches Kim. Uncle Kim, please. You need to rest, for a while. Until everything settles down, Kang says quietly but firmly. Kim Seon-ho looks at him, then at Jae-hyun, then at the others. He sees finality in their eyes. He is no longer an elder. He is a problem being eliminated. He slowly stands up. His arrogance has evaporated. He looks simply like an old, broken man. Wordlessly, he walks toward the exit, followed by Kang and another man. The door closes. Silence falls over the room. The case is closed, Jae-hyun says, addressing the remaining members. The River Brotherhood has lost its support from within. They will be dealt with. As for the rest, let this incident serve as a reminder. Loyalty is not an empty word. He doesn't wait for an answer. He takes the folder with the documents and leaves. The next day, a quiet reshuffle occurs within the clan. People close to Kim are given lesser positions or leave of their own accord. No fuss. No explanation to the outside world. Like a stone thrown into water, only widening ripples appear on the surface, while all the struggle, all the storm, remains deep within. The man with the 3 fish tattoo and his partner are never seen again in Seoul. Jae-hyun's top desk drawer, among other papers, lies an old postcard of the city. Her handwriting is on the back, and a small paper crane, which she never took back. It lies on top, like a seal on unspoken words. The days following the conversation in the old clan house flow with a new, unfamiliar clarity for Jae-hyun. He wakes before the sun and works until late at night. Business is better than ever. The fear Kim Seon-ho sowed has vanished. The clan members look upon him with a renewed, almost primal respect. He demonstrated strength, found the traitor, and eliminated the threat cleanly, without unnecessary fuss. His power is now absolute. He sits in his office. The sun is setting, bathing the room in a blood-orange light. On the desk in front of him lies a folder with dividends from the new port, now completely under Hwanghae's control. Next to it is a report on the liquidation of the remnants of the River Brotherhood. All is clear. All is decided. He places his hand on the tabletop. Beneath his fingers is the smooth, cool surface of the wood. He looks at his hands. These hands give orders that change people's destinies. These hands held the envelopes with her drawings. These hands helped her rise from the ground in the dark alley. It was in this moment of silence that understanding dawned on him. It came not as a blow, but as a slow, chilling penetration into every cell. He has won. He is stronger than he was under his father. His world, a world of shadows, rules, and iron, is now securely enclosed around him. He is its complete master. But this victory is the final nail in the coffin. Ava doesn't belong to this world. Hers is the smell of paint, sunlight on an easel, a simple, "It felt right." Her world is light, bright, direct, sometimes naive, but real. His world is eternal twilight, where even the sun shines through the tinted gray windows of limousines. If he pulled her toward him, into this twilight, the light within her would go out. He'd seen it in her eyes in the alley, pure terror in the face of the real, unmotivated cruelty of his universe. He could surround her with bodyguards, hide her in the safest building, but it would be a gilded cage. He would kill the artist, the dreamer, the very girl who, out of a sense of justice, slipped a note into a stranger's pocket. He would destroy the very thing he valued in her. What if he can't handle it? What if he keeps her close, but not inside? Then she will forever remain his weak spot, a target. The story with the alley will repeat itself, but next time he might not be there. Or his enemies will come up with something more sophisticated. The price of her light is her safety. The price of her safety is her freedom and her light. A vicious circle, a dead end. He gets up and goes to the window. The city below is lit up, myriads of little lights, each in its own window, in its own life. He looks around for the neighborhood where Lotus is, where she rents a room. He doesn't know the exact window, but he knows that there, among those lights, there's one that burns differently, warmer. He can't extinguish this flame. The only thing he can do is send it where it will shine safely, far from its twilight. He returns to the desk, takes a clean sheet of paper, and begins writing short, clear instructions, not for Khan, for himself. Then he opens the safe at the back of the room. He takes out several folders and keys. He assembles a package of documents with the cold, methodical precision of a surgeon preparing instruments for a complex operation, an operation to remove himself from another person's life. He chooses Wednesday, early evening. He knows her schedule. That day, she has a short day shift. He's driving alone. In a regular car, no driver. He parks in the alley behind the Lotus, the one with the service entrance. He doesn't want to meet inside, in public. And he doesn't want to go to her house. That would be too personal, too intrusive. He waits, leaning against the car. He's wearing a simple dark suit, no coat, even though the evening is chilly. In his hand is a thick brown envelope. He sees the door open. The cooks and kitchen staff come out. Then she appears. Ava emerges, wrapped in a light spring jacket. She carries a canvas bag, from which brushes and tubes of paint protrude. She looks tired but calm. She pauses in the doorway, rummaging through the bag, apparently searching for her keys. Then she looks up and sees him. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't run. She simply freezes in place. Her expression becomes wary, like that of a wild animal that has smelled a familiar but dangerous scent. She slowly lowers her bag to the ground and straightens up. Jaehyun pushes away from the car and takes a few steps toward it. They stop at arm's length. Between them lies the asphalt, cracked and stained with engine oil. He looks at her. He sees the shadows under her eyes, the new thin line of tension at her lips. She's changed too. She's no longer the frightened girl from the alley, nor the determined one who brought him the folder. She seems to have accepted something, resigned. "I shouldn't have come," he says first. "But here he is." She nods silently, as if agreeing, yes, he shouldn't. But since he's already come. He hands her an envelope. She doesn't take it right away. She looks first at him, then at the envelope. "What is this?" Her voice is quiet, slightly hoarse. "What you need," he answers. He doesn't explain. He doesn't justify himself. She slowly takes the envelope. It's heavy. She holds it in her hands without opening it. "Did you cope with what I found?" she asks. Not about money, not about documents. About the case. About his war. "Yes," he says shortly. "It's over." She nods again. Her gaze drops to the envelope, then rises back up. There's no curiosity in her eyes, no greed. There's a deep, mature sadness. She understands that she's holding more than just papers. She's holding an ending. "I'm leaving," she says, not as a question, but as a statement. She already knows what's inside the envelope. "Yes. You need to leave," he confirms. "Far from here." They stand in silence. The noise of the evening city drifts down the main street. But here, in the alley, it's muffled. Somewhere, water drips from a pipe. That's all that breaks the silence. Ava suddenly makes a barely perceptible movement. She brings the envelope to her chest, pressing it with her palm as if testing its reality. Then her gaze hardens. "Thank you," she says. Not for the money, for everything. For believing the note. For not blaming her for interfering. For coming out into that alley. For now giving her a chance to escape in one piece. He doesn't reply. "You're welcome." He simply bows his head slightly, almost invisibly. He accepts her gratitude. I painted a new picture, she suddenly says, and something of the old, bright Ava comes through in her voice. There's a lot of light there, and blue. He looks at her. For the first time in this short, difficult conversation, something human appears in his eyes. Something unrelated to calculation or power. A spark of something like warmth or regret. That's good, he says quietly. Blue is a good color. There was nothing more for them to say. All the words had been spoken silently by the envelope in her hands and his presence here. He takes a step back, then another. He turns to leave. It's his last gesture. The last thing he can give her is to leave first, to spare her the trouble of turning around and leaving herself. Yes? Ji-hyun, she says his name for the first time, out loud. It sounds strange on her tongue, but soft. He turns around. For the last time. She doesn't smile. Her face is serious. Stay strong, she says. Not be careful, not goodbye. Stay strong. This is her farewell, her blessing into his dark world. He doesn't answer. He nods again, once, clearly. Then he turns, opens the car door, and gets in. He doesn't look in the rearview mirror as he drives away. He knows she's standing there, watching him until the car is out of sight. The car is completely silent. On the passenger seat lies a small, perfectly folded paper crane. He took it from his desk before getting out. He wanted to give it to her, but he couldn't. He kept it for himself, as a final reminder of the light bay he had willingly released into his sky. Ava stands in the alley for a few more minutes. Then slowly, as if in a dream, she opens the envelope. Inside is a passport in a new name, a visa, bank cards, and a one-way ticket. Paris. Departure in 3 days. She doesn't cry. She takes a deep breath of the cool evening air, smelling of restaurant food and exhaust fumes. Then she puts the documents back, takes her bag of paints in one hand, the envelope in the other. She leaves the alley and turns not toward home, but toward the art studio. She still has 3 days, and she wants to finish that painting with more blue. Ava sits on the floor of her empty room. Boxes surround her. Some are already sealed. Others are waiting their turn. In 2 days, she won't be here. An open envelope lies on the floor in front of her. The contents are neatly arranged. A ticket. Paris. Economy class, but a direct flight. The name on the ticket is Eva Carrington. She opens a new passport. It has her photo, but a different name. The documents are high quality, clearly designed not for escape, but for a new life. Attached is a letter of acceptance to a small but respected Parisian school of contemporary art. The scholarship covers the first year of study. And a bank card. Attached is a piece of paper with the account numbers. She stares at them for a long time. This isn't just living expenses. This is an amount that will last for years. For an apartment, for paints, for the freedom to create without worrying about bills. This is her future, wrapped in plastic and paper. She carefully, almost reverently, rearranges the documents. And at the bottom of the envelope, under a thick layer of papers, she finds another sheet. Unofficial, crumpled, with a jagged edge, a familiar texture. It's from her old waitress notebook. She slowly unfolds it and freezes. On the sheet of paper is her drawing. The very first crane she ever drew on a napkin, the one he took from their first meeting after the restaurant. The drawing is a little worn, with a barely noticeable coffee stain on the corner. But it's still there, carefully folded, and now straightened out. There's not a word next to the drawing. No note, no signature. Only this crane. Returned to her. She picks up the piece of paper. Her fingers trace the strokes of the blue pen. She suddenly remembers that evening with incredible clarity. The smell of coffee in the office, the heavy silence, his calm voice. She was afraid then, and he simply took and saved that stupid childhood picture. She sits for a long time, looking at the crane, and then at the documents spread out around her. A ticket to Paris, school, money, and this crumpled sheet of paper. One set opens the door to the future. The other closes the door to the past forever. She carefully folds the crane back, but doesn't put it in the box. She puts it in her new wallet next to her new passport. Let it go with her. Paris greets her with a rainy autumn, then a frosty winter, and finally, a bright, green spring. A year has passed. Ava, now Eva, lives in a bright apartment with high windows in Montmartre. She studies, a lot. Her hands are always stained with paint, with traces of charcoal or pastel under her nails. She speaks French with an accent, but can already argue with her teachers about the Impressionists. Her work changes. The dark, restless shadows of soul disappear. More color appears, more bold lines. She paints Parisian rooftops, people's faces on the metro, reflections in the Seine. But one painting stands out. She completed it back in Seoul, in those 3 days before her departure. Tonight is the opening night of her first solo exhibition at a small but trendy gallery in Le Marais. There aren't many people there, classmates, a few critics, and curious connoisseurs. She stands to the side, wearing a simple black dress and holding a glass of mineral water. She smiles and answers questions, but inside, there's a slight tremor. Her gaze keeps returning to one painting. It hangs in the center of the far wall. Title, L'homme à la fenêtre, Man at the Window. There's no face in the painting, only the silhouette of a man standing by a huge floor-to-ceiling window. It's night. Outside, a sea of city lights glimmers, but they're blurred, as if seen through rain or tears. The light from the room falls on his back and shoulders, leaving his face in deep shadow. In one hand, hanging at his side, he holds a small white object. Looking closely, you can see it's a paper crane. It seems so fragile against this powerful, lonely silhouette and the endless city. The painting is done in blue tones, lots of blue. From the dark indigo of the shadows to the cold, almost icy cobalt of the night sky outside the window. This is a painting about distance, about memory, about something important that remained there, in another city, thousands of kilometers away. People approach the painting. They fall silent. They stare longer than at the others. They ask Ava about it. She only smiles softly and says, "It's a memory." The opening is drawing to a close. The guests are gradually leaving. The gallery owner, an elderly Frenchman with a sharp gaze, claps her on the shoulder. "Wonderful, Mademoiselle Carrington, especially the central work. It has a quiet drama, very personal." She thanks him and helps clear away the remains of the wine and canapes. She's about to remove the nameplate from the door when a delivery man in a delivery uniform approaches. "Mademoiselle Eva Carrington?" She nods, surprised. Who could have sent something here, to the exhibition? The courier hands her a small, flat box made of dark cardboard. No ribbons, just her name printed on the label. He waits for her to sign on the electronic tablet and then leaves. Ava stands with the box in her hands. It's light. She walks back into the now empty gallery and sits down on a bar stool near the kitchenette. Her fingers tremble slightly as she removes the lid. Inside, on the white filling fabric, there are 2 things. The first item is a key. One key, modern, with an electronic chip. Attached to it is an address tag. The address is in the very center of Paris, on the Ile de la Cité. It's a luxurious building. This is the key to the apartment. The second item is a paper crane, but not her old tattered drawing. This one is new, folded from thick, expensive, cream-colored paper. It's folded with incredible, almost mathematical precision. Every fold is perfect. This isn't a child's craft. This is art. A sign. She takes the crane. Under it, at the bottom of the box, there is nothing else. No note, no postcard, no name. She sits, holding the key to a luxury Parisian apartment in one hand and a perfect paper crane in the other. The silence of the gallery suddenly becomes loud. Outside, the evening Paris roars. She looks at the crane, then at her painting on the wall, the silhouette of a man holding the same fragile paper sign in his hand. And she smiles, not widely, not for the cameras. A quiet, deep smile that reaches only her eyes. There's neither joy nor sadness in this smile. There's understanding and gratitude, and a thread as thin as a spider's web that, despite all the distances, one-way tickets, and new names, has never broken. She carefully places the crane and the key back into the box and closes the lid. She doesn't know if she'll go to this address. Maybe, or maybe not. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that he knows, and she knows, and that's enough. She stands, grabs the box and her purse, and turns off the light in the gallery. A cool Parisian evening and her new life await her outside the door. And in the small cardboard box in her hands lies a whole world of memories and one silent, perfectly formed hello.